We're visiting McMow Art Glass, and the owners are with us, Phil and Shannon Materio. Yes.
Very nice to meet you.
Good Italian name. And so you started this business, what, in the mid-70s?
1976.
Fantastic. Now, we're here because much of what they do involves the restoration of early houses in Palm Beach by the famous architects.
Yes,
and I know
absolutely.
that specifically you were going to show me some windows that are going into, is it a Meisner house or is it a...
Fazio, or Wyeth.
Wyeth.
It's a Wyeth house.
It's all the great.
What I'm going to show you is the
all
Wyeth.
the great
yes.
names,
yes.
right? But what you do is much more complicated, and there's much more variety here. It isn't just about restoring or repairing a window; it's about creating replicas and creating all new work.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
right.
we're always inspired by the older homes.
So much of what I'm looking at here in the background is colorful stuff that looks like it could go in a nightclub, or it looks like it could go in a private residence, or it looks like I saw something back there earlier that looks like it goes in a church.
Yes, we have a vast repertoire of talent here. So
and you're not just working here in South Florida.
All over the country and outside of the country.
Uh-huh. So you got started as an art major.
Yes. I got started as an art major, and I worked for a small company in Boca Raton in the 70s that built Meisner-style office buildings, and they were condos, which was kind of unique at the time on Camino Real. And they had a stained glass studio that created stained glass windows and doors and light fixtures for each one of those office spaces. Right. They look like large Meisner multifamily homes, actually, but they were just that style.
Sure, and it's exciting to me because I always think that this is a 19th century and 18th and 16th, but here in the 21st century, you can still get the raw material.
We can, yes. Not much else. Not much has changed, technique-wise.
All this stuff that's behind you is the raw material.
Yes.
Where do you get it? Is it manufactured here in America?
So there are 6 manufacturers in the United States, and we buy from all of them. Some are, one is a machine-made company, the rest are hand-rolled studios, and which means that they have a limited amount of production, and we do use a lot of their glass, and they're from everywhere. Our favorite glass that's not from America is a mouth-blown glass that is still being manufactured the same way it was hundreds of years ago.
I think a mouth-blown is being a flower vase or something. I'd like to focus on one thing that you're making here right now that's going into one of our houses on Palm Beach Island.
Okay.
And I understand it's that piece.
It is. Yes.
Can we go over there
Sure.
and look at it more closely? This window here, it's all kind of a uniform glass. What kind of glass is it?
This is mouth-blown glass.
So that's what we were just talking about over there.
Yes.
It's a cylinder.
It is blown into a cylinder.
And then?
And then this is the bottom of the cylinder. And then they cool the cylinder, they score it, they score the bottom off, and then they open it up flat so it's a sheet.
So that's a sheet.
That's the sheet.
And it's irregular, it's not perfectly flat. It's got some texture to it.
It does, and that's the uniqueness that we like.
And that's what you're using here?
Yes.
These little circles then are cut from that sheet?
These little circles are cut from this sheet, and others, everything in this window is hand cut, and every piece of glass came from this company in Germany that has been making mouth-blown glass for centuries.
So where is this going?
This is going into a 1920s home in Palm Beach that is a Wyeth home.
Marion Sims Wyeth, whose early houses were usually Mediterranean revival.
Yes.
Later in his career, he went into other styles. And so is it a replica of something that was there historically?
No, but it is inspired by the historic stained glass windows used in those homes in Palm Beach with all the architects.
Sure.
From that era.
Sure. And I always think that this is just lead and that it's soldered together, but that wouldn't give it great strength. How is this all built?
Well, I'm going to show you how it's all built in a few minutes with the mate from this.
Oh, you're making more than one?
We're making a second one.
Good.
And I will tell you that very little has changed in this industry in 800 years.
In centuries, yeah.
Yes. We have very little technology. But one of the things that has changed is the metals have other components to them, other alloys that makes them much stronger.
Stronger than just plain lead.
Yes. And it also is, when we're all finished building, we call it building building the window.
Right.
Then we do solder it both sides where the joints are. That's what all these are, solder joints.
Right.
And then we take it to an area and we actually, what we call mudding, and we mud the window.
Okay. All right, but I'm interested in the cutting and the assembly. Can you show us that?
Sure, I would love to show you that.
Great.
It's really cool.
I'll follow you.
Okay.
This will be the mate to that window. And you got to have a big workbench.
Yes, you do. You have to have a big workbench.
Yes. So how is it all put together?
Well, I'd like to introduce you to Hans.
Hans?
Sir,
Hans
pleasure meeting you.
is from Speyer, Germany, and he is a master in his field.
Glasermeister. In German, it's
Glasenmeister.
Glasermeister, yes, sir.
So you apprenticed?
I apprenticed, yes, sir, and then I worked like 5 years as a journeyman in Germany, and after that you can go to school, Bundesglasfachschule in Hadamar, and you become a master craftsman. They teach you also everything about economics. You get a bachelor's in economics with it, and they show you all the little techniques.
Gosh, and then with all that education, they let you out of the country. So we're lucky to have you.
And we are very lucky.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
So let's understand a little bit about how this all gets put together. We just learned about the individual round pieces. Where do you start?
We start with a 6-foot piece of building cane that we're using, and that's right over here.
This stuff?
This stuff,
Yeah.
exactly.
Which
And
is
you can-
lead caning. Yeah.
And you can actually bend it, you can cut it if you
Yeah.
have to, you know.
Now, is this 100% lead, or did you say there were
No,
alloys?
it's alloys. Yeah, there is no 100% lead left,
No,
Being
it
made.
would be much weaker.
but it's extruded the same way.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll help you with that.
So, and then each piece is individually wrapped. We wrapped it around and cut it to the size.
Yes.
And then we number them all. This is the color number, and then this is the piece number where it goes, the red numbers here.
So the colors have been assigned to a specific location.
Yes, sir.
Before you assemble it all.
Yes.
Yes, sir. We had it laid out on the light table, and we picked the colors like we wanted it. It goes from light to dark. As you can see, here's a little more darker, here's more light.
Yeah.
And then those, we call it Zwickel in German, those little triangles here, they're individually also numbered and cut. They go in between, as you can see here in this panel here.
Zwickel.
We call it Zwickel, yeah.
And they all look to be uniform in color.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's the same background.
Where did you get started? On the corner? Or
I
at
start,
the top?
if you're right-handed, you start in the left corner. If you're left-handed, you start in the right corner.
Okay.
That's a different system here.
Okay.
But so I start here and I just go row by row. I put them together. I put the, as you can see here, the Zwickel or the triangles I put
so
in
the
here.
next piece that you would be doing before we interrupted you, can we just watch you do it?
Yes, sure. I put it in here and then put this here. Take the next piece of glass, stick it here. And I put a little piece of lead extra that I don't want to mess up the lead too much here.
And the little nail is just to hold it temporarily.
It's just to hold it, yeah. If you don't nail that stuff, it's going all over the place. You
Yeah.
always have to make sure you have nails in it.
Yeah.
And then comes the next piece. First comes this one. And so you just build piece by piece. And at the end, when you're done with everything, you solder the joints. So yeah, so I just work my way up to here and then I keep going piece by piece.
So Hans, how long will it actually take to complete this?
Including soldering, 3 days.
3 more days.
Including today, 3 days.
So today, and then once you've laid the ball out temporarily like this, then you start the soldering process from one end to the other.
What I'll do is I'm going to put it together first, row by row.
Yeah.
Put the frame around, the caning frame around, make sure it's all tight, and then I start soldering. And once one side is soldered, each joint's going to be soldered. And once that is done on one side, I have to flip it around, the table that tilts. We pick it up, we turn the panel around, put it back, and I solder the back side. And that whole soldering process takes about a day.
So
For both sides.
wherever the circles touch each other, you will be soldering.
I solder here, 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 at each one, yeah. So when I start soldering, I usually go like this. You know, just go row by row by row by row, so you don't miss anyone.
So I
Yes.
want to learn a little bit about the more traditional stained glass, like when you're in church or temple, you think about religious subjects, etc., pictorial windows.
Sure.
Do you make those here as well?
We do.
But where does that start?
Well, it starts in the drawing department.
Oh, back
Would
here.
you like
We
me to
just
show
walk
that
by.
to you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
All right, so what we're looking at here then is a church window, right?
Yes.
And what's the project for?
This is St. Ignatius Cathedral. It's a Catholic church.
And who's the artist?
This is Whitney, and unlike you met Hans from Germany,
Right.
Whitney is homegrown here, and I've known her since she was a small child at School of the Arts.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is up at St. Ignatius, and St. Matthew's already existing, and you've been commissioned to make another window.
We've been commissioned to finish the series, and there's 5 left.
Okay, so who are you working on now?
This is St. Andrew.
Okay. I have no idea how you do this. I mean, this is a blown up, I know the term cartoon, not the funny papers, but cartoon when you were doing a big tapestry, for example.
Sure.
This is kind of akin to that.
Yeah, similar. This is basically an enlargement of a small scale drawing, which we send off to have blown up. The small scale is drawn to scale,
Yeah.
to 1/8 inch scale. So yeah, basically we draw the box the exact size that the window panel will be, and then we slide underneath the enlarged drawing. And then so you can see there's some tracing and then some making it work basically to fit in. So this window has a lot of stylistic elements that have to match the existing windows. So yes, I'm kind of making edits as I go based on the small scale.
And everything will happen here, including painting, I suppose.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So this, how does this turn into glass?
Okay, so one of the very important parts of this section, or this part of the process, is that everything has to be cuttable. So that's one of the things Whitney's doing. She's doing the math to make sure it fits. She is doing some of the roughing in of the stylistic painted elements, but very importantly, she's creating where a line ends, starts and ends, that's going to be a cut piece.
Yes, okay.
Then those pieces, and what we do is we cut all the glass that's going to get painted first,
Okay.
because that's the longest part of our process. No matter what we're painting, it's the hardest. So those pieces go to the painter and the rest go to the glass cutter.
And this, the end product's going to be about an 8-foot tall window,
Yes,
right?
it is.
How long will it take to make this?
So we typically, when we're working for a church or a temple or anything that has a series, they want them all installed at the same time.
Right.
So because we're going to be doing 5 of them, somewhere between 6 and 8 months.
Oh, that's much less time than I would have expected.
Well, because we have lots of different stations doing different
Right,
things.
so what's the next station? Here we've got the paper laid down on the light table,
Yes,
and she is cutting pieces of glass
she is.
according to the design. But clearly it's not St. Matthew.
This is Maria,
Hi,
How
Maria.
you doing?
and Maria's been cutting glass for us for how long, Maria?
26 years.
Wow.
And she is spectacular. Not only does she make it look easy, she really knows how to use the sheets of glass. This is kind of an easy design for her to be cutting, but a lot of times she's working on things that are much more complicated. She knows how to get every inch out of a sheet of glass.
This is like a contemporary design.
This is.
Because it's all the lead caming that goes
Yeah,
all
all
over
the metal
place.
is what and the soldering and the cementing is what makes it strong. Hans always looks at our pieces before we start cutting them to make sure that the pieces of glass themselves aren't too big, or we don't have a line that goes horizontally through many pieces, because then it's a folding effect.
Yeah.
So everybody's involved. This team is involved in everything.
Got it.
When she, usually Maria or whoever is cutting at the time, cuts the pieces of glass that are to be painted, because that process is so time consuming, then I would like to show you how the glass is painted.
So some of them actually get painted.
Yes.
Now the pieces that are being worked on here go to the piece gate.
Yes, this is the wing of one of the doves that's going to the piece gate. And this is Jordan, our
Hi,
very
Jordan.
talented, also homegrown, School of the Arts graduate, who is our in-house glass painter.
Now, this black and white thing that you're working on right now, it will be a wing for the dove?
Correct, yes. And it's painted with a finely ground gloss powder.
Yep.
And there's various metals, oxides, and glass that make up the components. And I add that to a little jar with some clove oil.
Clove oil.
Yes, and that's the clove, the herb that everyone's familiar with.
Yeah, sure.
And that acts as a catalyst to the paint so that it kind of glides across the surface of the glass. And then when I fire it in a kiln at 1250 degrees, it bonds into the surface permanently.
Permanently, yeah.
Yeah, so it kind of fuses in there. And that's why you see stained glass windows that are hundreds of years old with this painting that is still rich in color. It doesn't chip, it doesn't fade.
Yeah. Now, the orange that we see on the light table here would have been a different firing.
This is actually the Lambert's glass itself is the color on this one, but I will be adding more warm tones into this after I fire the black.
Fabulous. And then the dragonfly is going someplace.
Yes. And that just started with a very, very thin black line. I wanted it more subtle to be a little more realistic. And then with that, I use a guide to add my color. So you can see there is a layer of dark blue that has been fired, and then a light cyan on top of that. And there's even a little bit of green in there.
Yes, amazing. So each of these stations is one particular artist and
Yes.
his or her artistry.
Yes, we all know what we're not good at, and we also know who here is good at that.
Well put. And then what else should we be looking at? So this is called caining, and I think the origin of the term has something to do with ancient reeds that were used to put things together. But
Yes, it looks like a reed.
yeah.
So that is, it's derived from Latin, word that means reeds. I'd like to introduce you to Jürgen.
Jürgen, hi.
Jürgen is from Stuttgart, Germany,
Know it well.
and he is a journeyman who has been here for how long?
22 years at McMow Art Glass.
Yes.
Wow.
So he's doing more traditional style work than the round circles, and I'd like him to explain that to you.
Right, because this is all in pieces, but it's going to be part of the piece gate for the temple.
Exactly.
I see.
So what I'm working on is this transom window here. I'm in this section. You can see it right here.
Right.
So that's the layout, and here it continues into the other 4 windows.
Let's watch you work.
So what I'm doing here, we have this cane, and it's actually an extrusion, and it looks like the shape of an H. So each side is made to accept the piece of glass in here.
Correct. It's got channels.
Exactly. It's like a channel. Now, before I do that, I'd like to tell you, not only this is like a 1/4 inch right here, but it comes in many different sizes. That is a little wider one and more flat.
Right.
And this is even a little heavier one. So some of the lines we accentuate when we build, and we want to put some heavier leads in there. So they come in different widths. It's all for 1/8 inch glass, but the width can vary quite a bit.
Okay.
So-
Go ahead, let me see you fit one in.
So
And this, of course, is the strength of the window.
exactly. So, you fit a piece of glass in here. Then we also use these little stops and a nail, and you can see that as I'm building, I hold this project in place with all
Right.
these nails here. One of the important things when you build is a technique we call weaving. Do you see how I left this lead a little longer here?
Yes, yeah.
On designs, here it's a little different, but on some of the designs where you have a lot of straight lines, you don't want all the straight lines going through and the little pieces in between, like a basket, that would collapse.
Sure.
So when you do this, you have to think about how you put the certain leads in there.
Sure. And like a basket, there would be some flexibility.
Yes.
And flexibility and windows are not a good thing, especially where we have hurricanes and hurricane codes. These are not installed to the weather, are they?
No, they're not. We haven't installed to the weather by code. We're not allowed to.
Yeah.
For probably 30 years.
Right.
And it really makes the window stronger. Even just being up against a piece of clear glass, which is what we do. We install right up against the interior of the building glass. So if it's impact glass, if it's non-impact, isn't important. It's just that they're touching.
That they're touching. And what about heat gain melting the lead?
If that happened, Bob, we would have to move because it would be 1,200 degrees.
Oh, okay.
It's really interesting because the techniques are the same techniques that were being done 800 years ago, 300 years ago. We're still doing the same thing, and as you can see, it's a very laborious kind of a craft that we do here, and we all really like what we're doing, and it's fun to come to work because it's always different.
Very artistic process. Well, it's amazing. I want to thank you, Shannon and Phil, and McMow Art Glass. I want to really thank you for letting us interrupt your work and congratulate you because you're really keeping alive an art and a craft that's so important. Thanks.
Thank you for joining us.